Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be sharing 3 make-ahead breakfast ideas that are all wholesome, nourishing recipes that you can obviously make ahead of time to save you a little bit of time when it's actually time to eat. If you guys are new around here, welcome to my channel. My name is Becca. I am a registered dietitian and I like to share lots of healthy recipes and encouragement to cook with whole food ingredients here on my channel. I'm obviously very passionate about nutrition and I try to do my best to teach you how to eat to properly fuel your body, but how to also enjoy food without it being this big, stressful, difficult thing in your life. I'm all for intuitive eating, I'm all for balance, and that is what you will find here on my channel. So today we're gonna be making 3 different make-ahead breakfast ideas. I have recently been very intrigued by this, idea of a freezer pantry where you stock your freezer with wholesome foods. Maybe they're already prepared and just need to be reheated, or maybe you're making your sourdough sandwich bread ahead of time and you're sticking a few loaves in the freezer so that you can easily pull them out in a pinch. This has been really intriguing to me because I'm obviously someone who is very passionate about cooking from scratch and using real whole ingredients. But in order to do that all the time, you really have to be, on your A game. You always have to be planning out what you're gonna be eating and sourcing the ingredients that you need. And you're pretty much cooking every day, all the time. And I do enjoy cooking so much. I really one of my favorite places to be in the world is in my kitchen making food, because it just brings joy to my soul. But sometimes you fall behind, or maybe you don't want to have this kind of stress on your shoulders of you do have to cook every day, unless of course you could get takeout or things like that. And sometimes every once in a while we do that, but it costs a lot of money and it's not the healthiest choice, and it certainly doesn't make me feel very good. So I try and avoid that as much as possible. And this idea of kind of having this freezer pantry really helps to mitigate some of that stress. It makes it a little bit more realistic, and you can knock out certain foods or certain recipes and then just stick them in your freezer so that you can pull them out when you're in a pinch and need them. I am all about trying to make, cooking from scratch and, cooking nourishing foods and all of that more doable, that's actually realistic, and this is just one way. So if you want to see the 3 make-ahead breakfast ideas I have prepared for you in this video, let's get started. First up, I'm making sourdough blueberry muffins, and since they're sourdough, the batter did start to ferment overnight, and I did film me making this batter, and I have literally no idea what happened to that footage. I'm not perfect, you guys, but basically I mixed up, I'll have full recipes down below linked for you guys, but I mixed up the butter, the sugar, the sourdough starter, and the flour the night before, and then I went ahead and added all of the other ingredients. So that is salt, baking powder, baking soda, also some cinnamon, and then I added 2 eggs. Now we're getting to our liquid ingredients, which is gonna help loosen up this pretty stiff batter. So I'm doing 2 eggs, and then I also add in half a cup of milk, a teaspoon of vanilla, and then I'm adding some collagen because I wanted to add a little bit more protein to these muffins to help round them out. I don't love muffins for breakfast because they're mostly just carbohydrate. Even if they're made with high quality ingredients, they're just not going to be the most filling, they're not gonna be the most satiating, and you're probably going to be hungry pretty soon after. I tend to go for more of a higher protein breakfast, which is why I wanted to add a little bit of collagen powder to these muffins, just to help up that protein a little bit more, make them a little bit more filling, and obviously there's no taste whatsoever, so it's just a really easy thing to add. So then you're gonna start mixing it up. Like I said, the batter is kind of stiff, and you just wanna kind of work in all of our liquid ingredients. It will come together, I promise. You'll see it turns into kind of more of a liquidy batter, just like this. And when it looks like this, you are ready to start putting everything in the muffin tin. Oh, but first, add your toppings. So I did blueberries, but you can do whatever you want. Honestly, you can get so creative with this. You could do chocolate chips, you could do raisins, you could do really any other like kind of dried fruit that you like. You could add nuts, you could do like the shredded carrots, kind of like a morning glory type muffin. You really can go for it. Just think of this batter as like a base and then add whatever toppings you want. Coconut would also be really good, shredded coconut. So then you're just gonna go ahead and add the batter to the muffin tins. This amount of batter makes, I made 12 here. I think that's 12 if my math is hard. But you're just gonna go ahead and fill them up. I filled them up like most of the way. They will puff up, but I did fill them decently high. And then you're going to pop them in the oven. So I baked them at 425 for about 25 minutes. You're basically just looking for the muffins to puff up and be golden, like that nice golden brown. I let mine go even a little bit longer because I kind of like them to be like just the littlest bit like crispy on the top. I like a little bit of that crunch. Now, if you're making these ahead of time, it will lose that, but if you're eating them fresh, you will definitely get that little bit of crispiness on the top if you kind of overbake them just a teeny bit. And that is exactly what I did here. And you can freeze these for later. I have all those instructions in the blog post that's linked down below, but if you wanted to make them even more ahead of time, you totally can. You can eat them fresh out of the oven. You can eat them, store them at room temperature throughout the week, or you could go ahead and freeze them to save them for even longer and then just pull them out and thaw them and heat them back up whenever you want to eat them. But this makes for like a perfect quick, if you're running out of the house early in the morning, breakfast, or if you really want to beef it up, you can pair it with scrambled eggs or some yogurt or even a big glass of raw milk, just kind of round it out. But my kids totally approved. They thought they were so yummy. Next, I'm going to be making bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches that you can totally make ahead and then reheat as you want to eat them. First, I'm starting off with the bacon. I have pretty much completely converted to baking bacon in the oven instead of cooking it on the stovetop, because it is just so much cleaner. There isn't grease splattering everywhere that we have to clean up later. And I just love that it's kind of hands off. So I am just putting bacon. We get ours from a local Amish market. It is like the most tasty bacon ever. Anyway, so putting it on a baking sheet with some parchment paper. And I usually bake mine at, I think like 375 for like 15, 20 minutes. I basically just keep an eye on it because you don't want it to burn in there, but you do want it to get crispy. So I'll just set the timer and then keep an eye on it as it gets close to the end. Next, I'm moving on to eggs. I had to clean some eggs because our chickens get they just get a little dirty out there. So they always have to be cleaned off. Fun fact about fresh eggs is when you don't clean them, they still have this kind of like film on them that protects bacteria from getting into the eggs. So you can sit them on your countertop for like up to a month. I mean, ours never last that long. But as soon as you wash them, that film is gone, and they can technically go bad quicker, which is interesting. So I am making 9 egg sandwiches because that is about what the English muffin recipe makes. If you want like good size muffins, it makes 9. So I am just doing 1 egg per sandwich. I definitely needed to cook up more bacon. I didn't cook enough bacon. So you would just do like 9 slices of bacon. You need 9 slices of cheese. But anyway, so first I'm doing the getting the eggs ready to go in the oven as well. So I put 9 eggs, a splash of milk, and some salt and pepper in this big bowl. And then I'm just whisking all these eggs up until they are nice and fluffy. And then they will go into the oven. So I'm just using this baking dish, and this is avocado oil. I particularly really like this brand, the Chosen Foods brand, because the only ingredient is avocado oil. There's no other additives in this spray, and the spray is just like such a shortcut. I feel like it just makes like getting baking dishes greased so easy, and I really like that one, and I think that one's from Costco. You can get it other places, but the big one is from Costco. So next I'm moving on to making the English muffins now that I have popped the eggs into the oven. So I have used Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone. I have used her English muffin recipe for years. I love it. It is just so simple. It's not overcomplicated, and they always turn out great. I started them the night before with just flour and starter and water. And then the next day you add some salt, baking powder, and a little tiny bit of maple syrup to sweeten them. You could also do honey. She has this recipe on her blog, and it is like one I've used for years. So I'm just pulling the bacon out of the oven now because they are looking nice and crispy and delicious. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pop the eggs in. So I have it at I turned it down to 350. And then I'm gonna bake it for like 20 to 25 minutes was my goal. 26 minutes ended up being perfect. But you just wanna keep an eye on it. Basically, once the center of the eggs set, they can come out. But while those are baking, I'm gonna start cooking up the English muffins. So I'm just heating up some coconut oil on 2 skillets, and then you basically just kind of spoon the batter in. Doesn't make the most perfectly round English muffins, but I'm not trying to impress anyone. They taste delicious, and they really are so easy to make. So you just kind of spoon them on like a low medium heat. You let them cook on the one side and get really big and puffy. They kind of double in size. And then when you flip them over, they'll just cook on the other side, and they always turn out so beautifully. As long as you keep an eye on them and you don't burn them, they always just turn out so good. As you can see, it's like a really sticky dough. So it's not necessarily the easiest to work with. It's not like making pancakes by any means, but it really is pretty simple. You can see they really puff up and they get much bigger, which is what you want because that makes them nice and fluffy. It's what gives them all those nooks and crannies. And then I'm just testing the eggs, making sure, again, that center is set. You give it a little like jiggle and it's not like jiggling like Jell-O, then you can pull them out. So you can see it's not really moving when I shake it. So now I'm just gonna cut it into squares, and this is where the fun part happens. This is where we get to start assembling. So you're just going to cut them into 9 squares, because again, we're making 9 sandwiches, and then you will just start to assemble. So now I am just cutting open the 9 English muffins so they can be ready to be made into sandwiches. And they really are so delicious. They turn out really fluffy. This time I made them with just straight up all-purpose flour, but I also make them with like fresh ground whole, like straight up whole wheat flour too, and they always turn out good. It just kind of depends on what mood I'm in. If I'm trying to make these super quick at night, I'll just use all-purpose flour because it's so fast. But either way, you can't go wrong. And then obviously if you make them whole wheat, they're going to be a lot more nutrient dense and pack even more nutrition in this simple breakfast. So then we're just gonna assemble. So I just do a little square of the baked scrambled egg, 1 slice of cheese, and then I just take 1 piece of bacon, break it in half, and there you go. There is your first sandwich. So this is totally something that you could do ahead of time. You could make these like on the weekend and have them to eat for breakfast throughout the week. You can double the batch, triple the batch, whatever you need to do for you and your family. You could do the batch in half, whatever you need. And it's like, you know, it's a decent amount of work to get these together, but they are so delicious, and it's going to be so much better than anything that you would buy like pre-made at the store. It's going to save you a lot of money instead of like going out and buying something like this from a coffee shop or something. And let me tell you, they are so tasty. These were a huge hit in my house. So if you do want to make them ahead of time, this is how you would save them. So you can freeze them and you can keep them in your freezer for as long as you want. I just wrap them up in a little bit of parchment paper, and then you would grab like a freezer size Ziploc bag and just slide the sandwiches in. Once they've cooled down, you can do this, and then you can put them in your freezer. And then when you're ready to eat them, just pull them out the night before. You can pull out however many you need, so they can thaw in the fridge overnight because you want them to be thawed in the morning. And then you can either taste.
Couldn't wait to get my hands on one. Delicious. Wrap up in here, take it for a little picnic. Great job, Beth.
Sorry, Matt had to get in there for his cameo. You can either zap them in the microwave, or you can pop them back in the oven to reheat them, which I will have all those instructions on the blog post linked below. Lastly, we are going to be making a cinnamon raisin baked oatmeal. So this is something that you can completely prep ahead of time and freeze, or you can just prep everything the night before and bake the next day. It really is something that can be done easily ahead of time, and it's pretty tasty. So again, I will have the full recipe linked down below, but I am adding some eggs and a cup of milk, a little bit of maple syrup to sweeten. I'm also adding in some melted butter, and then you're just going to mix up all of those liquid ingredients. Make sure to break up those egg yolks so this becomes fully combined, and then we're going to assemble our dry ingredients. So I use 3 cups of oats. I like these sprouted oats. I buy this big bag from Costco. So sprouted oats are going to be a lot more easy to digest. They're going to have the phytic acid broken down, so you don't have to necessarily soak them before using them. But they can be really expensive in the grocery store, but this big bag from Costco is always a great deal. So then I'm adding some salt and some cinnamon and some baking powder. And then I'm going to add in some chia seeds as well. This is going to add just an extra punch of fiber and omega-3 fats, and you cannot taste them. They're so small. They just mix right in. You don't even know that they're there. And then I'm obviously doing cinnamon raisin for this, but I kind of made this baked oatmeal to be kind of like a base. You can keep the raisins or you can totally skip the raisins, and then you can have so much fun with toppings for this. You could use fresh fruit, you could use frozen fruit, you could use coconuts, you could add nuts, you can do like apple cinnamon, you could do like a banana, like banana walnut. I mean, you can have so much fun with this recipe and just add in kind of whatever toppings suit your fancy. You can mix it up all the time so it doesn't become boring, or if you have one that you love, you just stick with it. But that's the kind of the nice thing about something like oatmeal is you can really flavor it so many different ways and just take something that is just a really simple grain that is filling, that is nourishing, that is fiber rich, and you can make it into something that's really tasty and something that will really suit your particular taste buds. So I am just adding in all of those wet ingredients to the dry ingredients and just mixing it all up so it's very well combined. And then again, we are going to be baking in the oven. So I'm using that same baking dish. I think this is 8x8 baking dish, so it's on the smaller end. And again, I'm just using that avocado oil because it's a total like easy shortcut, but it's only avocado oil. There's no extra additives added, which I love. So then I'm just dumping this mixture in here, and then you're just going to spread it out so it's even, because you want it to obviously bake evenly. So I'm just using that spatula and zhuzhing it all around until it is nice and flat. Now it is time to bake. So I am baking it at 350 from anywhere from like 30 to 40 minutes. Everyone's oven's a little bit different, so you just want to kind of keep an eye on it. And once it starts to get like that little kind of golden brown at the top, that's when you know it's time to pull it out. So this is kind of what it looks like. You'll see the edges have started to brown. I probably could have even let it go a couple more minutes, but it smells so amazing and it is really so tasty. So you can slice it up and serve it just like this. You can mix it all up like I did right before baking it the night before, cover it with plastic wrap, leave it in the fridge, and then you can bake it in the morning. Or you can fully bake it and then freeze it like this, or cut it into squares first and then freeze them and then reheat as you go. There's a lot of different options to make this ahead of time, and you can eat it plain by itself, or you can add some, like pair it with some yogurt or steamed milk. Is actually so good. There's a restaurant down by the beach that serves like a big slab of baked oatmeal with like a little cup of steamed milk on the side. It's actually like one of the best combinations ever. I feel like this would also be amazing with some vanilla ice cream, which is obviously no longer really breakfast, but just saying. All right, you guys, so that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are going to try these out, have some new ideas to bring into your kitchen in a way that's realistic and doable. Thank you again for watching. If you have any suggestions or requests for future videos, please comment them down below. I would absolutely love to hear from you. I really value that feedback. It's so helpful to me, and I obviously want to make videos that you guys want to watch. So be sure to do that, and also be sure to subscribe if you're new here and you haven't done that already. But that is all I have. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.